Very good morning to all the learned audience. I am beholden to Professor K. Narahari, President Mythic Society, and Sri V. Nagaraj, Honorary Secretary of Mythic Society, for giving me this opportunity to be amidst you to deliver my talk. And I am also thankful to our revered President for this talk today, Dr. M.G. Nagaraj. And I also thank Sri Prasanna and Sri Jaisamha in coordinating this program. As you all aware, my talk is based on one of the fine aspects in the epigraphical study, that is education system as reflected in North Indian epigraphs from 3rd century BC to 12th century. In terms of time and space, I have taken a very vast area. Initially, I had restricted myself to the early part of 6th century. Later, I thought, in one go, in one sweep, let me give a kaleidoscopic view of the education system that prevailed in the past. Yes, as a subject matter, if I restrict to a particular period, it will be less. So then I thought, taking south also will be too vast area. Then I confined myself to the North Indian epigraphs. And especially targeting the young scholars, epigraphists, and many of the college students, they think epigraphs are nothing but a list of battles that were fought, kingdoms that were annexed. It's a political history. And I often remember our Sri Uday Kumar also on many form and talk, he has emphasized something beyond that. So it's not mere political history. Few decades back, the historians and epigraphists, they wanted to give a very well-connected political history. They thought of critically examining all the records to give a very well-connected history. Subsequently, scholars, they diverted their attention and looked into the cultural study. And on this occasion, I remember with great reverence Professor Chidananda Murthy's contribution as far as the Karnataka is concerned. So there is a great need to study history in the narratives at the micro level, the macro level, yes, and more of cultural history. So there has been a waning in the interest in epigraphical studies. To make the subject more attractive, I think what rich, treasured, is hidden in epigraphs, we have to unfold, we have to unravel. That's what I fondly remember one of our former director epigraphy, Dr. M.N. Katti, used to say, like, Bano Chishtam Jagat Sarvam. He used to say, Shasano Chishtam Jagat Sarvam. There is nothing, everything under sun and moon. When you look into the particular aspect, you will find in epigraphs. So, this you have to look for some subject, you will get it. Maybe you have to do little more extensively. Even the subject which I have taken, a much more deeper analysis is required. It's not that all the scholars who have written something of introductory note, they have slurred over certain aspects when it comes to socio-economic history. Education being such an important part, that much attention they have not given. So it requires a thorough examination. On the whole, when I examined the entire epigraphs, on two broad pillars it stands. One is Sanskrit as a pan-Indian language and even beyond India, and another is the Vedic studies. These are the two things. Right from past you go to the any amount, any period, throughout the length and breadth of the country, from north to the south and east to west you go, this was the one unifying force when it comes to the education. So, our subcontinent is very rich in epigraphical wealth, written in various scripts and languages belonging to different dynasties, 3rd century BC to late medieval period. Here in this talk, I am confining myself to North India, period ranging from 3rd century BC to 12th century Common Era. I need not reiterate here that our subcontinent is known for culture, philosophy, religion, literature. As all our epigraphy forms primary source to understand our past. In fact, it can be said there is no early or ancient Indian history without epigraphical studies. Even Richard Solomon also has observed while writing, for earlier period, naturally we have to fall back upon the epigraphs. Yes, when you come to the later medieval period, you have literary sources. We can supplement, corroborate, and add many more. But especially for the early phase, we have to depend on the epigraphs. Among the lithic records and copper plate inscription, there are very few inscription which has total bearing on education. And for the students who want to pursue further this, the basic thing, lies with the copper plate charters. Since I have examined many, one is when it comes to the Dhoni, it cites the Dhoni, his father and grandfather. Apart from mentioning the Gotra, Paravara Sutra and all, it gives his educational qualifications to which he belonged. So that forms one of the major portion where we have to look into this. Earlier scholars, they have not taken note of it. To enrich you take any particular dynasty, copper plates are abundant, in abundance. So this is very important to analyze, go deeper into this to cull out the more of literary achievements or what educational qualifications he had. All these are there, mainly when it comes to the Dhonis in the records. So, a multi-dimensional, multidisciplinary subject, epigraphical studies is gaining ground more and more. Apart from understanding political history, epigraph unfolds to understand cultural history in great depth and dimension. The role of education has a paramount place in understanding cultural dimensions of a country. Perhaps there is no aspect which epigraph does not deal. To understand education system that prevailed in the past, especially early period, inscription throw light on various aspects connected with education system in all its ramifications. As it is rightly observed, the degree of civilization reached by a particular society reflects the system of education adopted by it. There are two sources on which we can look upon. One is a literary source, another is epigraphs, which sheds light on education system. Among many literary sources, there are many works, but for the earliest phase of education, one can look for Kautilya's Arthashastra. Since our main focus is on inscription, we will not deliberate on literary works. When we take an overall look, the institution of education falls into two categories. One is royal education, or education important to royal personages, and another general public or commoners. A close example of the edicts of Ashoka reveal that he had excellent career and achievements, and we can presume that he was thoroughly trained in various branches of knowledge as prescribed by Kautilya. In the post-Mauryan period, two records stand out clearly as testimony of knowledge. One is Hathigumpha inscription of Karavela of 1st century BC, Another one is Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman, dated in 150 Common Era. The first record reveals that Prince Kharavela studied royal correspondence, lekha. These are the terms what we come across in inscription. Currency, rupa, finance, ganana, civil and religious laws, vyavahara or vavahara, vidhi. Further, he is described as Sava Vijavadata, one well versed in all the branches of learning. In addition to this, he might have mastered art of music. The record mentions two types of dances, dapa and nata, and also Gita and Vadita, that is vocal and instrumental music. Needless to say, as a prince, he might have undergone training in martial art too. Another record mentions that Rudradaman received royal education. The Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman gives a long list of signs of arts, both literary and military, in which the king had gained proficiency. He is described as attained wide fame by studying and remembering by the knowledge of practice of grammar, music, logic, and other great sciences, the management of horses, elephants, and chariots, the use of the sword, shield, pugilistic combat, and efficiency of opposing the forces. The relevant text runs like this: Shabdartha Gandharva Nyayadhyanam Vidyana Parana Dharana Vijnana Prayogavapta Vipula Kirtna Turaga Gaja Rathacharya Aishyamarya Yuddha Adyati Parabala Laghava Shushtava Kriyena. This is the text of the inscription. Further, the king is described as skilled in producing compositions of high literary merits in prose and verse. Sputa, Lagha Madhura Chitrakanta, Shabda Samayodana, Alankrita Gadya Padya. That's what we get. The above description is a clear testimony to the fact that the king had acquired knowledge of both head and heart. Apart from description in the inscriptions about the royal education, which are not many, other than this, we can also glean from the epithets occurring in the inscription of North India. The Gupta emperor, Samudragupta, had the epithet Kaviraja, which indicates that he had professed science of poetics. Aneka kavya kriyabhi pratishtha Kaviraja Shabdadya. He is compared to Brihaspati for his sharp intellect, polished intellect, his versatility in Dandaniti, Nishita, Vidagdhamati, Idita, Tridashatapadi Guru. That is what the text says. Even the epigraphs of the post-Gupta period too contain several references to royal education, especially with regard to martial arts, like skill in wielding different weapons like sword, bow, etc. Maitraka rulers, Guhasena, Dharasena II, Dharasena IV, and the Maukari rulers Anantavarman, Adityavarman, and Isharavarman. Among rulers of Maitrakas of Alabhi, Dhruvasena first is described as the teacher. Writings Avabodha Shastrartha Tattvanam. Shiladitya is stated to have possessed a pure intellect, though mastering thoroughly all the sciences. Sarva Vidya Para Parama Vagadhigama Vimala Matirapi. Like that. Karagraha is stated to have excelled in the knowledge of the sacred writing, Shastra Kaushalatita. That's what you get. These are some of the indications that Maitraka princes were taught the Vedas, the Dharma Shastras, and other branches of learning. Among the Maukari rulers, the Haraha inscription of Isharavanban is noteworthy. Shanta Shastra Vicharanahita Manaha Paran Kalagataha Lakshmi Kirti Saraswati Pravrityaha Yam Spardhaeva Ashritaha. Like that the words goes. The royal education included study of various sciences, beginning with military training, which included subjects like Vedas, Dharma Shastras, poetics, music, and other fine arts. Another very important aspect connected with the institution of education is the role of the teachers. This is very important. And it is paramount importance in any education system. Among the rock edicts of Ashoka, the minor rock edict second is noteworthy as it refers to teachers and pupils. The above mentioned edict exhorts that pupil must show reverence to the teacher. Antevasina acharya apachita ive iti, that is the text, and this clearly indicates that the teachers were held in due respect by their pupils from the post-Mauryan period onwards. There are several epigraphic references to teachers. We can try to understand the role of teachers in three categories. Reference to teachers belonging to Buddhism, Jainism, and Brahminical faith. The early records especially belong to the rulers of the Kshatrapa and Kushana dynasty, refers to religious teachers of Buddhism and Jainism. It is only from the Gupta period that we come across epigraphical references to Vedic teachers. Buddhism. The Buddhist teachers were known both by generic terms, Acharya and Upadhyaya, and specific terms, Petakin, like Tripitaka, Petakin, who teaches Petakin, Tripitaka, etc., which indicates specialization in a particular branch of religious studies. The term Acharya is frequently met with in the inscription. The Sahet image inscription of the time of Kanishka, and Huishka mentions the Acharyas of the Sarvastivadin school. Similarly, the Kura inscription of Toramana, Saha, 4th to 5th century Common Era mention Acharyas of Mahishaka, that is not Mahishaka, school of Buddhism. The term Upadhyaya does not figure much when compared to the Acharyas. The Kushana period inscription from Mathura refers to Upadhyaya Dharmaka, and Upadhyaya Rohini Mitra of the Gupta period we get. A stone inscription of Bodhagaya mentions that both Acharya and Upadhyaya, both we get such use of the term. I wish to draw the attention to a contemporary inscription from Amravati, which mentions Upadhyayinis, the rare occurrence which we don't find in the North Indian context. Only in the South, Amravati inscription, Upadhyayinis, that is female teachers. Though we do not have epigraphical reference, it might have prevailed in North India too, maybe. A junior Buddhist cave inscription mentions the term Ganacharya. Please note, Ganacharya, rendered as a Gana teacher. An analysis of some of the Prakrit inscriptions of the post-Mauryan period reveal the names of the Buddhist literature like Pitaka, Vinaya, and Nikaya. The words Pitakin, Traipitaka, Traividya, Traipitakopadhyaya, Vinayadhara, Vinayaka, Pancha Nayayika stands for all Buddhist teachers, all this. Then coming to the Jainism. A preceptor or Jaina is known as, in few terms such as Acharya. It is quite common. Thus, the Rajagiri inscription and Udayagiri cave inscription belonging to the Gupta period mention Acharya Veeradeva and Acharya Gosharman, respectively. The Parhapur copperplate inscription dated 479 Common Era refers to Shramanacharya Guhanandin Vachaka. Vachaka, that is again a reader. We get Pathak, a reader. In later period, we get the use of Pathak, who is a reader. Perhaps earlier, it stood for the Vachaka, who used to read out. Vachaka is another term denoting a Jaina teacher, which signifies a speaker or a reader. But of course, it also stands for Jaina teachers. Shishyas and Vachakas occur together in some of the epigraphs. Another term which you come across is Ganin, a Jaina teacher, in the inscription of post-Mauryan period, which signifies as having many disciples. In addition to this, we have also epigraphical references, particularly belong to post-Mauryan period, refers to female Jaina teachers. Female Jaina teachers, but they do not have any specific term denoting a teacher. But it is only from the mention of their disciples that we come to know that they were engaged in teaching. Now coming to the Brahminical teachers. As mentioned earlier, the reference to Brahminical teachers appear from Gupta period onwards, not earlier to that. Prominently, we come across two terms, Acharya and Upadhyaya. And they stand for teachers. That the Shaiva Acharyas are mentioned in the Mathura pilaster inscription of Chandragupta II, dated in his regnal year 61, and the Acharyas of Somatrata, Vishnutrata, Vasudata. These are the names referred to in the Tosam rock inscription of about 5th century Common Era. Upadhyaya Yashastrata is mentioned in the same inscription. It may be noted that as many as 6 Upadhyayas figure in the Bonda plates of Maha Shivativara Deva, dated in the regnal year 5. Manusmriti defines Acharya as one who invests a boy with the sacred thread and instructs him in the Vedas together with their kalpas and mysteries. And Upadhyaya is defined as an instructor who instructs for wages, not only a part of the Veda and the Vedangas. Several charters of Gupta and post-Gupta period mention Acharyas and Upadhyayas, all Brahmanas, versed in the 3 or 4 Vedas, Trivedin or Chaturvedins, and the Bhattas, they're learned Brahmanas, Bhatta. That's what we get while asking land grants. There are several inscriptions which refers to Brahmanas as Shatkarma Nirata. This very often figures in the Donis who are to perform 6 duties, and the 2 are very much connected with the education system. That is, one is Adhyayana, he has to read, and Adhyapana. This formed a very important aspect in the Shatkarma. There are many, many inscriptions which refer to this two things, Adhyayana and Adhyapana. And coming to the students, there are 2 popular expressions that we come across in inscription. One is Shishya. Shishya, met with inscription Ante Vasin, is also called a Shishya, Ante Vasin. Mostly met with in Buddhist records. The word Shishya and Prashishya, disciple to the disciple, Prashishya, a disciple with reference to the Jaina monks, are met with in Harapur copperplate grant, dated 479 Common Era. The term Antevasin, Shishya, Shishini, a female disciple also, we have a name called the Shishini, like Shishya, Shishini, are used in female students of both Buddhism and Jainism in the inscriptions of post-Mauryan period. But during the Gupta period, we get reference to disciples belonging to Brahminical faith like Sabbrahmacharin and Chhatra Vasa, hostel, what we say, Avas, Chhatra, mainly denote the Vedic students. This stands for Chhatra, and Sabbrahmacharin, they stand for the Vedic. Now the subject of study, whatever they were taught, there were different things. Let us see, the Ashokan Rock Edict enumerates list of religious sects not only for monks and nuns, but also for laymen and lay women. The following is the list of texts found in Calcutta Bharat Edict, also known as Babra Edict. Vinaya Samukare, that's one of the texts. Aliyena Vasini, that Ariya Vamsha, it is taken from Arigutta Nikaya. It is taken from that, excerpts from that. Anagata Bhayani, this again the same from Anigutta Nikaya. Muni Gatha, Muni Sutta, that is Sutta Nipata, that is again from the Buddhist text, it is Sutta Nipata. Moneya Sutta, again it is from Nalaka Sutta. Upatisha Prashna, that is Rata Vimita Sutta. So these are taken from different texts. And Laghula Voda, Rahula Vada Sutta. So Ashoka was quite adept in all these religious texts which are enumerated in the Calcutta Bayret Rock Edict. In the post-Mauryan period, there are several inscriptions regarding three classes of Buddhists: Sutra Pitaka, the Vinaya Pitaka, and Abhidharma Pitaka. These are the three. And the Nikayas, the five Nikayas, the Diga Nikaya, Majjha Nikaya, Khuddha Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, and Arigutta Nikaya. These are the five Nikayas were taught to the students. Regarding study and teachings of Jaina literature, there is no mention of a subject that were taught. As regards Brahminical learning, Gupta period onwards, we get epigraphical references. Needless to say, the Vedas were the chief constituent, which I told earlier. The subject of the study Gupta, Maitraka records refers to three Vedas, Traividya, and also Traividya Samanya. Likewise, we get reference to communities of Brahmanas versed in four Vedas, Chaturvidya Samanya and Chaturvidya Sama, mentioned in Indore copperplate inscription of Skandagupta. Thus, we gather from the inscription true traditions, one recognizing only the three Vedas, and others all the four of them. Another interesting fact that we notice in the Mandasur stone inscription of Yashodharman and Vishnuvardhana refers to a race of Naigamas. A Naigama is an interpreter of Vedic quotations. Naigama is an interpreter of Vedic quotations and words. Therefore, we may hold that there were texts on the interpretations of the Vedic words, like Bhashakaras and Sutrakaras when they did the later period, forming fact of the Vedic studies, and the Naigama specialists in the branch. They were the interpreters. And some of the members of the Weavers Guild referred to in the Mandasur inscription of Kumaragupta and Bandhuvarman mastered the science of Vedic astronomy, Vedic, that is Jyotisha, reference to Acharya of the Yoga philosophy, Yogacharya, in the Tosam rock inscription is interesting. An inscription of Shivagupta Balarjuna refers to Shaiva ascetics. This is a very interesting, and we find early inscriptions speaking about the Shaiva Acharyas. Shaiva doctrine, Samayasya Vyakya. Thus, it revealed that Shaiva doctrine were systematically taught by the Shaiva Acharyas. Shusharman, the founder of the royal family, is extolled in copperplate inscription of Maharaja Sangshobha as Chaturdasha Vidyasthana Vidita Paramarthacharya. Thus, the four Vedas, the six Vedangas, Puranas, Mimamsa, Nyaya, and Dharma Shastra constituted the 14-fold science which were studied during the Gupta period. Among other subjects, grammar, accountancy, that is Ganana, polity, and logic were popular. Now, script and languages. As we all know, Brahmi was the pan-Indian script with its modified forms. Another major script, mostly in the northwest part of India, was Kharoshti. To write records, the language employed earlier phase was Prakrit, and subsequently Sanskrit became a pan-Indian language to write, teach text and treatises. And writing materials. So all we have to analyze. When it comes to education system, there are different categories. We have to look into all these aspects. We gather from the study of some of the inscription, the material that were used like palm leaves, cloth sheet for writing books and documents. The Kurud plates of Sharapapuriya King Narendra states that the grant recorded in these plates were originally made by a means of charter recorded on palm leaves. Earlier, the tradition was to write on a palm leaf, birch leaf or palm leaf, and store it. Subsequently, to give permanency to a document, when a land grant is given to you, it has to last long, not to you, to your generations. Naturally, they transferred the entire text on a copper plate. That is Tamra Patra, we say. Patra is a birch leaf or what a Patra, and it is a Tamra Patra. So Patra is, that's why when you see the copper plate also, on the end of the margin you find a hole and a ring. So almost if you see the earlier Kadamba, Gangas and other records, it almost gives an appearance of a palm leaf, sometimes very thin sheets also, and thinly engraved. The Kurd copper plate, these were originally by means of record on the palm leaves. Taleshwara copper plate in Dviti Varman has a referenced usage of cloth sheet to write a grant. So very rare. Of course, later it got burned in a fire. Another grant belonging to the Maitra king, Gohasena, 240 refers to acquisition of books. Where do they study? We say Nalanda had a huge whole collection of books. Where are they? They are all. So, naturally for the students to access books, the palm leaves and all, no, they had a library. And Sadharmasya Pustakopakara. That is, thus we have a couple of references regarding writing materials. So they acquired books also for the students. And another foremost thing is the education institutions. That's also a very important segment in the study, education. It need not be reiterated here that Buddhist monasteries acted as centers of learning and education. It is said that Buddhist education and learning centers around monasteries as Vedic culture centered around sacrifice. All education, sacred as well as secular, was in the hands of monks. They were the only custodians and bearers of Buddhist culture. The Buddhist viharas occupied a paramount place as the Buddhist education centers. Review of none of the epigraphs reveal that construction of viharas and munificence made to them by the rulers and the general public, but details of the system of education that prevailed in the viharas is not known to us. Emperor Ashoka is credited with construction number of viharas. Unfortunately, we do not have any of his record to support the above statement. A beautiful record of Narsinga averts to viharas right from the days of Ashoka. There are a number of epigraphs which refers to generous donations, and the viharas are named after him or her. The term Vihara Swamin and Vihara Swamini during Gupta, post-Gupta period, there are a number of such references to viharas. Our knowledge of Nalanda as a great center of learning is entirely due to the account of Chinese travelers. The Nalanda stone is Yashodharman, which I will be referring later also, this thing. And Brahminical studies. The expression educational institution refers to Brahminical studies. Can only denote a place where number of Vedic centers only denote a place where a number of Vedic teachers resided. Please make a note, where there were a number of Vedic teachers resided. The Agraharas, the communities of the learned Brahmanas, Trividya Samanya, prevailing in Chaturvidya Samanya, and the Mathas, they played a very, very pivotal role in imparting education, Mathas. uh, there are number of charters belonging to different rulers, dynasty granting agraharas. So I have briefly touched. See, if you go into depth, it takes a lot of time, and I am only giving a very brief review. And the temple college, this is very important. The temple played a very crucial role. The Kona plate of Loka Vigraha Bhattaraka of Bhanudatta refers to Brahmana students of Maitrayaniya school. Please make, and they were the recipient of the grant. Tippera grant of Lokanatha records a grant of land to the king Mahasamanta Pradosha Sharman for erecting a temple Ananta Narayana for the daily worship of God and for the prevailing more than 100 Brahmanas versed in 4 Vedas, Chaturvidya. The terms Matha is employed to denote the temple. Its association with a large number of Chaturvidya seems to denote a temple which was center of Vedic education. The term Matha occurring in the inscription normally stands for education center. Another very interesting is Mundeshwari inscription, and you may note here the term Kulapati normally means head or chief of a family. Technical sense, it denotes a sage who feeds and teaches 10,000 pupils. It's what is said, a Kulapati. Thus, we have few inscriptions which attest to the temple colleges in North India. Temple plus the colleges. Now I shall move on to the, under a few minutes, inscriptions of the Maukharis, which I already said. In this period too, study of Vedas along with their shakas formed an important part of the scheme of Brahminical studies, particularly specialized in the study of particular shakas. Different Brahminical sects had developed their own religious literature. Mongargaon inscription of the time of Vishnugupta, that is later Gupta period, refers to one Abhimuktaja was devoted to his particular school of religious thought. He was a Shaiva, devoted Shaiva. Nalanda, which I just referred, was undoubtedly the most important center of education and learning. Nalanda stone of Yashovarman reign provides an excellent epigraphic corroboration with Huyen-Tsang's description of the magnificent building at Nalanda and also high academic achievements and character of scholars residing. Eulogizing the towering chaityas and viharas of this great center of learning, the epigraph says that they were highly ornate and their spires touched the clouds that in its grandeur. The Nalanda mocked at other cities. That's what the part of the eulogy. The epigraph also makes specific mention of a splendid temple built by Baladitya at that site. Kings and princes also devoted themselves to scholarly pursuits and the study of the fine arts. The Nagarjuna inscription of Yajnavarman, Maukhari chief, as most of all the kings learning the Haraha inscription of Suryavarman's proficiency in fine arts. It has been said that wealth, learning, and other muses resorted in him as if emanation that he was well versed in all the Shastras. Isharavarman Maukhari patronized and eulogized Vedic studies. Again, the Haraha inscription eulogizing describe him that the 3 Vedas were as though reborn again during his reign, he says, as a part, reborn. It was there, but he vitalized the Vedas. So, a few inscriptions from Orissa. The Tandivada grant of Prithvi Maharaja. This is very interesting. There was no from the author end, the little bit of elucidation, and I think the scholars can throw light on this, is stated to have studied 3,000 sciences. Somewhere I read to have, does it stand for Samaveda? I don't know. 3,000 sciences and wrote 20 commentaries. This repeatedly occur in this following records also. 3,000 sciences. His father Prithvi is again studied and taught commentaries on 3,000. His father also, that is continued. And his father Vishnu is described as the performance of Agnishtoma and other sacrifices, and had mastered Shruti and Smriti. Another chapter of Prithvi Maharaja, Pearl Comedy, refers to a Doni named Padma Sharma who had studied Vedas and Vedangas and had gained expertise in the Puranas, Ramayana, Dharmashastra, and many other, and they were all Shatkar Manirtas. Yeah, another unique inscription is Asan Pat. Most of the epigraphists might have seen a Shiva with a Urdhvaretas, and the edited by Dr. D.C.RAVISHANKAR, a beautiful article. And really it matters, when we read, was he really the king qualified with so much of science and arts and literature and knowledge? It's something unique. Asanpat Nataraja image inscription of Shatrubhanja, born in Naga family, called himself as Lord of Vindhyatavi. He calls him Vindhyatavi, made gifts of lakhs of these portions I will just skip over, where the king claims to have studied Bharata, that is Mahabharata, Purana, Itihasa, Vyakarana, and Samiksha, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Chandas, Shruti, that is Veda, and the scriptures of Buddhists also, and Sankhya. He has been described as the storehouse of superior knowledge, not mere knowledge. He says of superior knowledge and an expert in all the arts. So this is what he gives as an accomplishment in his side. So an inscription from Kosala region, I have picked a few. Maybe another few minutes I will conclude my talk. One of the inscription of Mahabhavagupta, Janamejaya, who styled himself a Trikalingadhipati, eulogizes his minister, Sadharana, son of a certain Shobana. He is highly eulogized. It is stated that his intellect was purified by the study of all Arthashastras. Not only one, I think there are many, like not only Kautilya, perhaps others who belong to that or subsequent period, Shastras and Smritis. He was verily Brihaspati, preceptor of God. He had knowledge of the Vedas, Vedangas, Shiksha and Kalpa, and Itihasa. These are the different. I don't think these are not mere eulogy. See, sometime, while recounting the demerits of epigraphy, they cite all these things. These are nothing, especially with the early records. I totally disagree with many scholars. They just shun it. This is nothing but a eulogy. So when something king says about his own minister, these are all part of his accomplishments you have to take, not as just only eulogizing a particular portion. Perhaps we have to go with that they had attained or accomplished these studies and subjects. Vedangas, Siksha and Kalpa, Itihasa. So inscription of the Paramaras, Chandalas, this is very important. Unfortunately, the scholars, who edited many of the inscriptions, they have not given much importance to these certain aspects connected with the education and education centers while editing the inscription. So that's what I was also discussing with the madam the morning, that a thorough study of the text needed to reconstruct the educational practices or whatever may be. A thorough study of the text is again required to take out many of the things. As I hinted in the morning, the Dhoni's accomplishments is something, it gives much of the information about his qualification, where he is associated, and all such details we get when we study the Dhoni's thing. So from the middle of 12th century, some of the Brahmanas are also known. For example, Shukla, they all stood for teaching. Pathak, now we have got Pathak, Pandita, Dikshita, Avasthin. we say Avasti, Avastin, they are all teachers. And so also with Dviveda, Dvivedin, now we say Dube, Chobe, Chaturve, like that. It got changed. Dvivedi, Triveda and Chaturveda, all these occurs in the grants. The family names of Brahmanas were not stereotyped. This is very important in the sociological context, where his father was an Agnishtomin and his son succeeds as a teacher. So such instances are there where Nina Dikshita is stated to have been son of Lalla Upadhyaya. His father was a teacher. And in another grant, Agnihotrin Madhava is mentioned as the son of Pataka Harsha. So it need not run in the family. If he is a Dikshita, not need necessarily all the son, successor, grandfather, or Dikshita, they adopted, perhaps took different professions too. That was bit flexible at that point of time. So I have cited many such examples here. So as you know, the daily routine of a Brahmana householder was to perform the Smarta sacrifice and to observe the other kinds of religious duties. He devoted himself to the study of Vedas, Vedangas and other Shastras, including literature and art. Some of the Brahmanas were not only conversant with this knowledge, but also experts in expounding them in public assemblies, is also known through inscriptions. Further, we notice the occurrence of Purohita, spiritual preceptor. This is very important. Purohita and Raja Purohita. This often we get in the Chandala and Paramara inscription. It continued perhaps in different periods and dynasties. Raja Purohita and Purohitas were there. So there is a very interesting allusion to Kayastha. You may note Kayasthas, the expression Kayastha Khila Vidya, Kayastha Khila Vidya occurs in a Chandala inscription signifying certain Prithvidhara had mastered all the branches of knowledge. Actually, looking into the etymology, a Paramara inscription of 1258 uses the Kayastha Sthirascha Anvaye. That is meaning that a person for whom it is used had body firm, Kayastha, firm, and that is free from all passion. That's what the Kayastha stands for when you look into the etymological meaning. So festivity, and this is a very important thing. A festivity has a close association with learning and knowledge. Vasanta Panchami, when you go to the Dhar or their center of learning, a sacred day associated with the goddess of learning appears to have been celebrated with great pomp and joy throughout the kingdom of the Paramaras, who were devoted to her. The Parijata Manjari, as we know, was staged for the first time at a spring festival in the temple of goddess of learning. And now I think that goddess image, I think somewhere in British Museum, we have yet to get back that image, the Bandar. So the Gahadwala's inscriptions are there. I have stated many things, and the Varanasi was a center of Vedic scholarship since very early times. Many Gupta period seals and sealings. See, very important as a primary source, seals and sealings give very much information. Rajghat on confirmed this, the Chaturveda seal of Gupta period appears that there was some school in Banaras for the 4 Vedas, or it was possible that 4 branches of Anvikshaki, Traivarta and Dandaniti and Shaswati were taught. These are the subjects. 2 seals with the legend Bahiricharana have been discovered, which shows that the school in Banaras to teach Rigveda in the Gupta period. So Damodara, one of that period, Vukti Vyakya Prakarana has mentioned a large number of petty Vedic teachers in Varanasi who engaged themselves in imparting education to very small groups of students and often keeping them in their homes. A large number of students were fed by the individual families in the society as well as religious institutions like the temples and mathas. The attitude of Gardawala kings must not have been different from those of Hindu householders who were interested more in the increase of yasha and punya for his father, mother, and for his own, thus promoting education in general and Vedic education in particular. I will conclude my talk with the last one paragraph. Though this talk is confined to North India, I wish to conclude by stating the greatest bond that existed even now exists in the vast Indian subcontinent has been our cultural unity, for which education forms a very important segment. In the words of C. Sivaramurthy, in ancient days, students traveled to distant universities at Taxila, Benares, Nalanda, and Kanchi. Great philosophers like Shankara established centers of learning for dissemination of knowledge all over the land. Any court, anywhere in India, there was no geographical barrier or linguistic for a scholar. India abounded in Sanskrit scholarship, whether Jagannatha wrote from Delhi or Appaya Dikshita wrote from Virinchipuram. The student and scholars who read and appreciated their work hailed from all over the land. The state language of India was Sanskrit. It was pure Sanskrit in all inscriptions of North India and even in South India. So Sanskrit as a pan-Indian language connected all the education centers far-flung in time and space and also acted as a unifying force. Thank you very much.